Welcome, Gene Merlain, to the Video Mojo Vodcast. It's great to have you here. Gene is a veteran product marketing manager and currently the head of Wistia Live product marketing at Wistia. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going, John? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here, and we're going to be exploring the B2B video marketing space. You're a product marketing manager at Wistia and have been a product manager for many years, so I want to tap into your experience. And I think we can start at the difference between B2B video marketing and a lot of the smaller creators or, solopreneurs who are trying to use video but might not be able to take advantage of what Wistia offers. How do you see that distinction?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. And there's two folds to it, right? There's the actual creation of the content, and then there's the aftermath of the content. That's distributing the content and allowing for the content itself to propagate and reach your targeted audience and allowing for that audience to engage with the content. So once you actually figured out a way to create the content, whether you've decided to use a full-on production setup or you've decided to create something using the phone in your pocket, you have the recording of that content. Now you're deciding to see, all right, now I want to post this content somewhere. Do I host it on social media? Or do I host it on a platform like Wistia? Or do I simply let it live out there, hoping that someone is watching it and engaged with that content? If you go with Wistia, Wistia makes it possible for you to host that content and then be able to embed and share that content with anyone, anywhere in the world, whether you're sharing it on your website by embedding it, or you're sending a link over to someone to be able to watch that content that you've just spent time creating. But in addition to that, part of what we offer on the marketing side is the ability for you to track the engagement of that content. With Wistia's analytics, you're able to see the total number of plays your video has received over the course of the lifetime of the video, from when you first shared it with your audience to when you decide to say, you know what, this video is enough, let's take it down. The video will continue to generate traffic and you'll continue to see engagement for that video. You'll also be able to use analytics tool to understand the engagement over the course of the video. Where are people falling off? Where are people the most engaged? And then seeing the heat map feature that we offer to see where are people spending the most time? What point in the video did people feel like they resonated with the most? All of that is what we offer within Wistia. You mentioned the lead generation aspect of it. One of the things that we offer is being able to add forms onto your videos to make it easy for your audience to then submit their email or contact information when they're watching the video. Now you can decide to leave it so the person can choose to add an email, or you could require the audience to enter an email before they even start watching the video. That allows for you to, one, capture the information right then and there, but also it gives your audience the freedom to decide if they want to submit their information before they can consume the content. All of that is, I think, something that a lot of businesses find valuable because it's making it possible for them to go out there and have their content reach the right and intended audience for the content in which they spend time creating.
Yeah, and I've always also looked at it, and I think that particularly looking at it from the smaller business point of view, they look at hosting on YouTube or hosting on Vimeo, and I like that Wistia gives you more control over the player. That kind of turnstile lead capture that you're talking about, I think, is also important. And you talk about having everything in one place. And that's, I imagine that that's part of the reason why Wistia Live is happening. But why don't you speak to why does a video hosting company and a video marketing company like Wistia start adding a whole other ballgame, which is webinar hosting? I'm much more used to people using a bunch of different applications. I think Zoom is a big one for webinar hosting. So why Wistia in the webinar space?
Right. One thing you might be noticing with how a lot of tech companies are moving nowadays is that they're trying to create a lot of value for their audience and making it possible for those users to do a lot in the same platform. So that way they don't feel like they have to purchase multiple software to achieve the same goal. It's really about helping users find value in the product that they are already using. Wistia has been around for 16 years. We've been a leader in the video hosting space since the beginning. A lot of customers have come to love us because we allow for them to create great content and being able to upload that content onto Wistia and share that content out in the world. But over the last few years, we've seen the way consumers and marketers are creating and consuming content evolving. Users are creating a lot more webinars nowadays than they have in the past, specifically with the fact that folks are working from home and the barrier to creating webinars are very low. So allowing users to use Wistia to create content and being able to share that content directly in one place is something that I would say is in line with all-in-one strategy and all-in-one vision that we think marketers would want. Also, it helps with allowing for them to save time in the long run. As you might imagine, with creating webinars, it's a multi-step process, right? You have to create a registration for the event. You have to share the registration out to your targeted audience. You have to host the event. Once the event is hosted, you have to make sure it's recorded. You have to download it. And then from there, depending on how much more editing you need to do in that recording, sometimes you need to find an editor who would then be able to edit it for you. That can take a little bit of an effort. And if you're an editor yourself, sometimes that takes hours of your day just to be able to download and re-upload, just to retain the quality of the event, to make the edits that you want to do. With Wistia, because you're able to create content and edit that content directly within our platform, it was a lot easier for users to be able to say, you know what, this is going to save me a lot of time. And the fact that everything is automatically hosted in Wistia, it was a no-brainer. Creating a webinar is one aspect of what you can do with Wistia Live, but then being able to edit and hosting and sharing that same content from your Wistia account without having to add any additional software, I think was a no-brainer for users. And we saw that users found that to be very valuable because it's making it possible for them to consolidate their tech stack and making it possible for them to have everything all in one place.
Yeah, it's cool. It's been interesting to explore. And, you know, for people that follow me in Video Mojo, I am going to be doing a full review of the Wistia Live webinar product. One of the things that I just learned yesterday in talking to your company is that you can, when you edit it, you have an option to have it replace the media within the Wistia library, which then saves you from having to re-upload it. So if you've embedded the live webinar and then you edit the webinar, you can then have that webinar not have to be re-embedded. You know, I also, as you know, enjoyed when I tested the product, having the registration page actually deliver the recording without having to put that recording in another location. So I think those are some of the benefits that you're talking about in terms of that all-in-one thing.
And to add to that a little bit, I think it helps with the audience too. At the start of the process, you would have sent a registration email to your audience with a link for them to register, just saying that, hey, you can go back to that link. Or if someone missed the webinar and they happen to fall on, or if they missed the webinar from where it happened and they just happen to, retrieve the initial email with the link will remain active as long as you set your registration to allow for the event to be accessible after the fact. Users can go and click on that same link and watch the event that they might have missed, all from the same place. So that's really saving you time and the energy of having to think about, all right, so this webinar is done. Now I need to think about all the other places I need to have it embedded. You can always redirect users back to the event page. All of that happens using the same link.
For me, it even happened that, I did the webinar that I happened to do is about ChatGPT. And on my links page that I have linked from most of my social media accounts, I have ChatGPT webinar, and that link didn't change from when I wanted people to register to the opportunity to register and watch the replay. Same link, no further effort required. I want to dig a little further into this difference between a B2B company that uses video marketing, and I know that you offer integrations with marketing automation platforms like HubSpot, for example. What are other ways that you see B2B companies leveraging video and the kind of systems that are required. That's one of the big things is that, video is not a no-brainer, even though you can shoot it with your smartphone and, put it on TikTok. That's fine and great, and I encourage it. When people look at systematic marketing strategy implementation, what do you see companies doing, and how do they leverage Wistia, and how do they get a bigger bang for their video marketing buck?
Absolutely. One of the things that I would say is one of the foundations of the platform, even before the integration aspect of it, is the ability for you to customize the player. Being able to customize the player to allow for it to match your branding as a company, right? If your colors are typically blue, you want to make sure that the player for your videos is a reflection of that branding. And now we've been able to make it possible for you to add a logo to your video. So that way, if you want to continue to watermark your videos from start to finish, you can upload a branded logo onto your player. So that way, when someone is watching your video out in the wild, they know it's from your brand, or it's an authorized video from your brand, rather. But in addition to that, we've made it possible for users to integrate Wistia with a lot of the platforms that they are already using. You mentioned marketing automation tools like HubSpot. We see a lot of customers come to Wistia to be able to, upload their video, share the video out in the world, but they also want to be able to track how the audience is engaging with video. And if it's someone that's already in their system in HubSpot, they can get insights for how long someone spent watching the video, how often did they come back watching the video, and allowing for you to see all of that insight in one place in HubSpot. So then you can use that data to make informed decisions.
As I've been exploring the product, I've been discovering things that were not intuitive to me, even as I think of myself as a pretty sophisticated marketer. And one of the things is the way that Wistia does analytics. So in testing Wistia Live and the kind of trackability that you were talking about, because people registered within Wistia, I have an individual by individual feedback analytics about how much they watched. Did they watch 2 minutes? Did they watch 10 minutes? Did they watch the whole 30 minutes? Would not be available, I don't think, in any other platform that I'm familiar with, to really know, okay, this person registered, okay, and they showed up. You might have a record of whether they watched or not, but not on an individual by individual basis.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you think about Wistia as a player, right? If you're using Wistia as the video hosting platform that we are, one of the things that marketers find useful and valuable is the fact that once the minute someone comes onto your website and they start watching the video, we have an insight onto who that person is. And if that person is already, let's say if you integrate with any of our map integration platforms, whether you're using HubSpot, Marketo, or Pardot, for example, if you're using any of that integration, we're able to pass that watch experience or that engagement data back to those platforms. So that way you can then be able to attribute to each of your contacts how many or how much of your video that they've watched over a period of time. So now when you go into the Wistia player itself, you're able to see over a period of time how much of your video people have consumed, how many plays your videos have watched, and you can get a list of all the users who've watched the videos. And using the heat map, you can see for each individual user how much of that video that they've watched, where they spent the most time, did they rewatch, and how often did they go back to rewatch that video, and how much of the video have they completed. All of that is something that is insightful for a lot of marketers. So if they're using a platform like YouTube, which obviously gives you more of an aggregate view of the audience consuming the data, right? They give you view counts and not so much detailed insights on who each of those individual viewers are. As a marketer, you find it very valuable on who those individual users are watching your content. So then you can use that data to make informed decisions on whether or not you need to reach out to them and start a sales cycle, start a conversation, and hopefully converting them if they're a lead to a paying customer.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to remember that we're not talking about an either or. We're talking about a both and in terms of Wistia and YouTube, for example. Even Wistia yourselves, I know, has a YouTube channel and are putting your content out on YouTube. That goes without saying, I think. One of the things that I'm always talking to marketers about is the need for multiple touches. And I heard just data yesterday in a podcast that the research said you need 14 touches to establish enough trust for somebody to want to buy. And so having that kind of lead nurturing trackability is something that I think any good B2B marketer needs to be systematic about. And having that level of analytics seems necessary.
Right, absolutely. And as a marketer, you're not just creating video content, right? You're also creating blog content. You're creating white papers. You're creating case studies. All of which are meant to not only allow for you to be a thought leader in your space, but also allow for your audience to consume the data or the content that you're putting out. So now when you couple that with video, video allows for you to add a different layer to the original content that you're publishing and gives you another way for you to engage your audience. So incorporating video into your marketing strategy is very important. Whether you're using Wistia or you're using video on social, and you're posting your videos on YouTube, for example, that's all in the process of you finding your audience and engaging with that audience and allowing for them to come back to you to ultimately, if they're a lead, to ultimately come over and convert. But if they're already an existing customer, it's allowing for them to grow with you as a business. So they being able to, they're getting the ability to spend time with your brand, to understand your brand, understand the kind of content that you're putting out, to educate them, whether it be about the industry or whether it be about the product that they're using, all of which are different touch points that I think is very valuable for you to consider as a brand to further engage your audience from the moment they land on your website to when you continue to nurture and grow them as a customer.
Yeah, and I think that creates a really nice bridge to one of my favorite subjects, which is the use of long form content, like a webinar, like a vodcast like this. And of course, you can record it anywhere and still host it on Wistia. The advantage of the Wistia Live webinar thing is now you can record it. You can always record video within Wistia, but people have different workflows. My workflow with the vodcast is to record in Riverside, currently at least. But I can still take that and put it in my website, put it in my blog, use Wistia to host it. But then that ability to have a long form piece of content like a webinar or a vodcast, and then to take highlights and excerpts and spread that across social media, it also can become part of a video blog post. So that you're building a kind of video ecosystem when you're using a platform that an ecosystem is only valuable if you can track across the multiple touches, which is what we're talking about, right?
Right, exactly, and I think with Wistia Live, not only do we make it better for you to, or easier for you to record your webinars all in Wistia, but also we make it possible for you to make all of those customizations and all organization that happens with a webinar recording after the fact. Right, no longer do you have to worry about, all right, I need to download this off Wistia and then upload it onto another service. All of that happens in one place. And not only that, you can always use that recording to continue to engage your audience. Leave the event room open, for example, to allow for new comers to come in and add to the chat conversation, or they can actually see a history of what folks who attended the webinar had said during the recording. And then allows for the audience to continue to get deeper information and fully feeling like they were a part of the conversation when it happened live, just because your event recording is saved in Wistia. Using Wistia Live allows for you to not only do that, but also gives you an opportunity to take advantage of Wistia's full suite of features that we offer with customizations, with the ability to edit your content, to customize, and ultimately getting the full insights and analytics of how your audience engaged with the content during the recording of the event, but also after the event has ended, how your audience is currently engaging with the content, and how that recording is performing after the fact.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and that I definitely have found, even with my little test, that having that same page and that same link to the page where the video is has given it more life, even just in the week or so since I did that test webinar. It makes a big difference. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover that we haven't talked about?
Wistia Live, we're fairly new in the space. I know there's a lot of players that's been around before us. They have a lot more name recognition than we do. So we have a lot of catching up to do to those players and be able to give you, the audience, an opportunity to trust us. We know that it's not easy to have to switch a platform, but we think what we have is very incredible. We have a lot of great value, and I think one of the things that we have a lot of players in the space don't have is the ability for you to have all of this in one place, saving you time. We have a customer who had been using us for a long time, and one of the first things he said with using Wistia Live is that it saved him 4 hours in his time to essentially go from scheduling, recording, editing, and re-sharing that same webinar recording. Outside of Wistia Live, it would have taken him with the software that he's used in the past, it would have taken him hours to be able to do all of that because of the download and re-upload. But Wistia Live makes it possible for you to do all of that and saving you time. We're here to stay. We're working on a lot of great features that a lot of our customers have been asking for, and those features will get added on over time. But also it adds to the overall value that Wistia as a platform offers, which is a video marketing solution for businesses looking to level up their video marketing strategy.
Very cool. Thank you for your partnership, Gene. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Wistia for your sponsorship. And it's great to collaborate with you guys on this kind of content, and more to come.
No, thank you, John. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to continuing the relationship.